This is the first of many in-person student testimonials. Today we have Parker, who you guys already know if you've been following us for a minute. Parker's come a long way. If you want Parker, you can just give everyone an introduction. I'm very happy that we're doing this.
Happy to be here.
Parker is one of our students for Dropservice Academy. And before we even get into introductions, if you guys are interested at any point during this video, we'll have our free school group in the description of the video, as well as our socials where you guys could reach out to us at any point and ask us any questions that you have. But Parker, tell everyone who you are, where you started, and where you're currently at right now.
Yeah, guys, so you may be familiar with me. You may know me as a coach, a mentor within Dropservice Academy, but I'm here to tell you that I was not always. I actually was a student of Dropservice Academy just in November of 2023, so less than 6 months ago. In fact, I think it might be 6 months today, on the day that I joined Dropservice Academy. I made my deposit and filed my LLC, started my business. No prior experience in the home service business. Just wanted to take a chance on myself. Wanted to try to create a business model that would allow me to step out of a traditional corporate role, that would allow me to build some enterprise value, and that would allow me to create a recurring revenue stream for myself. My fiance and I took the leap together, knowing I was going to be carrying, most of the brunt of the work, as she was also working full time in another role. And now fast forward to the beginning of May, we've had 5 fully operational months now, which would be December, January, February, March, and April. In our 5th month, April, that just ended a few days ago, we did over $35,000 in revenue, of which about $15,000 of that was taken home as actual net profit. It was a fantastic month, and I'm really excited to jump into it and talk to you guys more about my experience and how DSA has even changed and improved since I went through it. I think the time that I went through it, it was a no-brainer. It was more than worth the money to join and the investment to get it started, and that was 6 months ago. Now it's even worlds better than it was back then. So really excited to get into this with you, John, and excited to share my reference point as a coach and mentor within the program, but also as a previous student, someone who has gone through the entire process, start to finish, and it is really a testament to the quality of the program.
So what were you currently doing before you decided to take the leap of faith to start your remote cleaning business? Because I remember you were telling me you were making some money, but it was just like little commitments that allowed you to get into Dropservice Academy, start your remote cleaning business, but you had a long year even before that. So just like tell them like what your background is.
Yeah. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, but even more so than that, I'm an athlete. I actually was a collegiate Division I soccer player, ended up dropping out of school around the same time that I started my first business, and then ultimately signing pro. I had a brief professional career that was ended with a knee injury, decided that wasn't really worth trying to claw my way back to playing. I loved soccer, but almost felt like I had ticked the box and I could kind of put that chapter of my life behind me. Then really transitioned into full-time entrepreneurship. I had done some work in the Web3 space, crypto, NFTs. I had done some work in the agency setting, in like a growth operator or social media marketing agency role. I had a brief stint in copywriting, reselling, any entrepreneurial trend you could think of, I had given it a try. I had seen variable levels of success. In some of them I had found quite a bit of success, but there was no longevity for it. In others of them, never found much success at all. And in some of them, I even lost money. So I've really been around the ringer from an entrepreneurial standpoint, but that has always been my passion. I've always wanted to stay out of the corporate workforce, and so much so that when I was trying to build my first businesses and things weren't going well, even just a year ago, when things were not going well and I didn't want to dip into my investments and I didn't want to dip into my savings and the things I had put aside for the long term, I was driving DoorDash and Uber Eats with my extra time to just try to make some more money and continue to prolong the period of time before I would have to step into the corporate workforce and give myself more opportunity to lengthen that runway. And fate had it that 6 months ago I was going to take this entrepreneurial jump, and I think I can comfortably say it's been my best endeavor yet. And I think that the next 6 to 12 months look extremely promising, not just for the business that I've currently created and scaled and now I'm starting to automate, but the businesses that I plan to replicate with the same model.
So what was going through your mind when you were trying to make the decision if you wanted to start a remote cleaning business? Because you went through our entire process, we gave you the pitch and everything, but you didn't join right away. You gave us a 5-6 day shot clock essentially, where you're like, I'm going to talk to my wife. I'm going to try to figure out if this is something that I want to go full time in. So what was your thought process after you were given all the information of then leading you to make the decision?
Yeah. So for me, like many, the two concerns that I had were time and money, right? It was, do I have enough time to run this business effectively? And do I want to put up the upfront capital? As in anything, as in business in general, capital is required to get started, or capital is required to cut your learning curve. And after gathering a lot of information, following John on social media, watching a lot of free content, I felt like I would be able to start the business on my own. But in the same vein, I felt like starting this business on my own, I would probably be currently where I am at 6 months. I'd be where I was at month 2. I'd probably be, maybe doing 9-10K a month and really just fighting through all the learning curves by myself. I said to my fiance at the time, I said, for me, I want to do this right. If we're going to do it, I want to go with a mentorship group that I know is going to provide the infrastructure that I need, and I want to go fast. I don't want to putz about, try to figure it out myself, waste money on ad spend, waste time doing this and that. And then I decided I could commit enough time, and we had the financial wherewithal to make the decision. And from there, I think once we kind of cleared those two objections, it was a no-brainer. And ultimately what got me by my final hurdle, which was the financial risk associated with starting the business, was that the cost of running and maintaining the business month over month was so low that I truly felt like I couldn't lose in the long term. Like, if your operating cost, your net operating cost is $300, even if you spent $20,000 on mentorship, I felt very confident that over time, I would continue to be in the black month over month, and I would be able to dig myself out of the hole of the initial investment and soar beyond it. And I made my initial investment back in about 20 days.
Yeah.
So
just to make it clear, like, the mentorship is not $20,000.
Not even close.
Not even close. But that's a good point, because November 20th was when you actually made the decision. We were like, hey, I'm ready. Let's get this onboarding call set up.
November 6th.
Well, November 6th, and then November 20th was when you became first day operational.
Yep.
You were taking on cleans. So it was 14 days to get started. And then the startup costs. How
Yep.
much money did you spend between November 6th to getting your first clean?
Yeah, about $300.
And break that down for everyone, because that's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And again, another reason I was like, I can spend money on the mentorship side of thing because the cost of the startup was so low and the cost of maintaining the business was so low. And the really only costs I incurred was filing the LLC and then expediting it, which is optional, getting insurance, getting my CRM set up, getting my my workspace and my domain. Those are kind of cheap miscellaneous costs. Getting my business phone set up, and then I did my web development myself. I did my logo name myself, all that stuff. So yeah, it was about $300. It was really, really low cost. The most expensive thing was filing and expediting my LLC, which was like $170 of the $300. So beyond that, it was truly like $150 outside of that.
And then, like, today, you did 35,000 in April.
Yeah.
And you can talk about like the independent contractors and everything like that as part of like the margins. But what are you currently spending a month for that $35,000? Like, what are your overhead expenses?
Yeah. So, you know, I think ad cost and independent contractor costs, they are variable, but the good thing is they scale with your business.
Yep.
So every month, as my business gets bigger, I spend more money paying my contractors because they're doing more work, and I spend more money on ads because I'm getting more leads and more bookings. So putting those aside for a second, say I were to get no bookings, my cost to run my business would be about $30 for insurance. It would be about $20 for my phone. It would be about $60 for my CRM, $15 for my workspace, and I think that's it. I think, all in, you'd be looking at, what would that add up to then?
$155.
Yeah, like
Which is crazy.
$150, let's call it, to operate my business month over month. Again, why I felt so strongly that, that is truly one clean a month. One clean a month keeps you at break even. And anything beyond that, you should become profitable on. Even if you don't have money to spend on ads, there's free marketing that you can do. You can knock doors, you can cold call, you can meet people in your community. I mean, that's ridiculous. And now to go into more specifics of my previous month, my 35K month that I just finished, we spent about $17,000 on paying our contractors, 17.5, 17.6, something like that, just over half of what we made. And then, we spent 2.9%, probably more like 2% on processing fees for Stripe. Again, you're not paying that if you're not making money. And then we spent around $2,500 on ads. So, this was Thumbtack, Yelp, Google LSA, some paper marketing materials, all of it. Again, all in, you're looking at about 18K for contractors, miscellaneous stuff, then throw your ad spend in there. I took home, just about $15,000 this month in net profit after all expenses.
That's really good. Like, that is really good because let's think about laundromat, for example. Laundromats do what? $35,000 to $50,000 a month in revenue.
Yeah.
They have to pay rent. Like they have electricity expenses. They have utilities. What you were saying, not the expenses where it's like they're expenses because you're making money.
Yeah.
But like the fixed costs, $115.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's insane.
Yeah. No, it is ridiculous because you're not going to bleed dry. You're not going to run this business and you bleed yourself dry trying to keep it alive. It's $150 a month to keep this business alive. I mean,
for the entire tech stack is what he was basically explaining.
That's it. It means it costs you $5 a day to give yourself an opportunity to make money. I mean, you just can't beat that. You can't beat that in any industry, in my opinion.
And then I want to dissect, you were saying in the very beginning, if you didn't join DSA, you would probably be around like where you did in month 2, month 3 at this point. So like a completely 2x in growth trajectory. I want to kind of break that down a little bit. So like the onboarding process where it took you 14 days to go operational, what specifically in that do you think gave you a head start to becoming operational in 14 days? Was it like the CRM aspect where we basically clone our store for your store so you don't have to like spend the time for that? Or is it anything in the onboarding process that you wouldn't even thought like you would have had to do research on? Maybe you were confused on maybe getting an open phone set up, or like what specifically in that saved you time from being in DSA?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think the CRM clone was huge. I think being told the order to do things in, there's certain things like certain ad account setups and filing for certain things that just take longer than other things. And if I would have just been, a random person off the street, probably would have done step 1, waited 10 days, then started step 2, waited another week, started, and I think my onboarding process probably would have been drawn out to, 6, 7 weeks, which that in itself sets me back a whole month behind the actual experience that I had. So I think the CRM is huge. I think the order is huge. And then I also think the scopes of work and the understanding of pricing and timing and things like that you almost inherit through the group, it's extremely valuable because one thing I did not have an understanding of is cleaning, right? I mean, I clean my own place on occasion, probably not as much as my fiance would want me to, but...
Did you have a housekeeper growing up?
And I did. I grew up, my parents had a Polish gentleman named Eric, shout out Eric, who came and cleaned our house every 2 weeks for my entire life. And he just came alone, no idea how long he was there, didn't know what they were paying him, didn't know anything about it. And now to come in, and again, if I would have tried to just do that all through market research, I imagine it really would have been very difficult.
So like the resources, and before we even get into like the resources that helped you become like more etiquette of like the entire cleaning industry at large, insurance. You said $115 was everything to get started, or $300 to get started, $115 a month. I'm not going to like specifically say what we told Parker and all of our students, but we gave you an opportunity to probably save $50 to $80 a month just on insurance alone.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's no...
Because that's huge, because that's every single month. Like, explain to them what the general liability insurance is for the business and like how it works.
Yeah. So the way that you structure your business, a couple things, using contractors versus W-2 employees, and the type of insurance policy and where you source it from. I mean, all of these things have a huge impact on, one, how protected your company is, and two, being, in compliance with regulation and with the laws and with what you are allowed to and not allowed to do. But then within that, there's a spectrum of prices that you can be compliant at. You can be compliant at $150 a month, and you could probably also be compliant at $30 a month. And if you don't know that, you might be paying $150 out of a fear of non-compliance that is costing you over the span of a year, over $1,000 in just additional expenses incurred by paying for an insurance that you don't need, paying for a tier of a service that isn't necessary, paying for an ad platform that isn't going to actually help you. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times during my first month I called either you or Mark and was just like, hey, I got a call about, do I need to buy this particular labor poster?
Yeah.
And, we would walk through, okay, what does it look like? What are they saying? Where's it administered from? Okay, no to that one. Great. That's a $200 thing that I maybe would have just bought on my own if I didn't know, right? Same thing goes with things like what tier of certain platforms to use, or, I got a call from this company. They said they can generate me X amount of leads for this cost. Is that worth it? Yes, no. Again, I could be here just shooting in the dark, throwing money at whatever I find and seeing it. I preferred to put my money into just finding expertise for someone to tell me what to do and what not to do, so I didn't have to figure it out on my own.
Yeah, 100%. And then a big part of the onboarding process, the hiring. Mm-hmm. So again, guys, 14 days from Parker, from getting his LLC, getting his EIN, to hiring cleaners, to getting his first sales call that he closed. That's the 14-day interval.
Yep.
So you were able to hire 2 cleaners, I think was what you onboarded in the beginning, within those 14 days. The hiring process alone, like explain what we provided value for you to be able to have that 2-week benchmark where you were able to hit it, get that first sales call, like the contract, for example.
Yep.
What would have you done during that onboarding process if you weren't inside DSA? Just like onboarding them in general. Like, let's just say like how to go about like different outlets to find these independent contractors, but like having them get on board that entire process. Would have you been able to have trouble with that, or do you think you would have been fine without DSA?
Yeah, I think that there's there's an element of like, you don't know what you don't know. And that is something that I think people need to be a little bit more weary of than they are. And it's this idea that like, I would think, I know how to go out and hire someone, and I know where to find them and how to qualify them. And, it's just cleaning. It can't be that difficult. And yes and no, because again, you don't know what you don't know. And so for me, I didn't know where I was going to hire people for free. I didn't know where I was going to hire people where I actually could verify the experience that they told me that they had. I didn't know where I was going to hire people with the proper expectation of what the role was going to look like. Then put all of that aside. Once I found the right person, interviewed them, they were ready to get onboarded. I didn't know how to onboard them in a way that protects my company. I didn't know how to onboard them in a way that I am not carrying the risk of them doing something wrong. I'm not carrying the risk of them lying to me or trying to pull one over on my business. And I'm also just putting myself in a situation where I am appropriately respecting and adhering to the boundaries of the classification of employee that we've hired. So, there's a lot of stuff that people don't even realize that they don't know. And that's where, I probably could have figured a lot of it out on my own. Lord knows how long it would have taken me. Lord knows if my contracts would have been up to par, if I would have hired the same quality. I mean, the first cleaner that I hired now is going to make $100,000 this year working for me. She makes $2,000 a week cleaning houses for me. She is an absolute killer. She is a 5-star rating machine, right? I would not have sourced her the way that I did if I didn't have the help in doing it that I had.
Dude, crazy. 6 figures. And like you post content now on TikTok.
Oh yeah, yep.
And he'll make videos about like his cleaning business and everything like that. And he'll get so many comments every once in a while. People be like, oh, like you're taking advantage of all of these women that are doing the work for you. Like you're ripping them off, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, she's going to be making 6 figures this year.
Yep.
As an independent contractor.
Yeah, she makes about $1,900 a week right now. So, that's just shy of 6 figures. And she does it with no high school education, no college education. She had worked other roles in the past that maybe paid a similar rate. I think she said the best job she ever had, she was making like $23 an hour. I'm paying her $25, $28, $30 an hour, and she can work essentially unlimited hours with me. When she wants to work, I have jobs for her. When she doesn't have to. She's not a W-2 employee. She doesn't have a strict schedule that she's stuck to. She wants to take some days off, she takes some days off.
She just did for the first time. Tell them that. For the first time since she was onboarded, which has been 6 months.
Yeah, for the first time since she was onboarded, she said, hey, Parker, I want Friday, Saturday off. She never works Sundays, but she always works Fridays and then half the time works Saturday. And she said, Parker, I want Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. No problem. Say the word, right? She picked up a couple extra hours Monday through Thursday, still made $1,800 in just 5 days of working that week. The previous Saturday and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Took Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Back now on Monday. And, she sets her own schedule. She's her own boss. She just tells me when she's available and I provide work for her. She smashes it out of the park and we both make good money doing it.
And like the beauty, was she the first or the
very
second?
first?
Very first cleaner that you onboarded, and she's still here today. And the beauty of you guys, if you wanted to start this with like the workload that you're going to be getting, the new clients that you're going to be putting on your calendar, Parker essentially is building out a calendar for her.
Yep.
So she came in and she was already doing cleaning. Was she working for another company, or what was her situation?
So she had cleaning experience and was doing a little bit of independent cleaning. At the time, was actually working more as like a customer service rep at a bank. Okay. But had all the supplies, had all the experience, had all the drive and the desire, and then worked for me part-time originally while working another part-time job, and then eventually left the other part-time job to work for me full-time. And now she works 50 plus hours a week every week because that's what she wants to do. And if she works 55, 60 hours a week, she's going to make $1,900. And not a lot of people have the luxury of even getting to do that if they wanted to.
And you probably changed her life.
Absolutely. I think this job is, not just hers, but she has a husband, she has 2 kids. She gets her Sundays off every Sunday. If she wants the weekend time off, she gets the weekend time off. Whenever she wants to work, she wants to work. If she wants to make as much money as possible, I fill her calendar from when she wakes up to when she goes to sleep. She has full ownership over it, and the more she wants to work, the more money she makes, the more money I make, and we're both happy.
So like you're not only starting a business where you're going to be making 5, 10, 15K a month and like you're happy about it, you're having a massive positive impact on people all around the US or whatever city it is that you start a cleaning business in. Parker comes in, he onboards the cleaner, I'm not going to say her name, and now he's, because of the business model where recurring revenue is the number one essentially like framework of the entire thing, like you get a clean, whether it's one time, and then typically the customer is going to become sticky. If you provide a high quality service for them, they're going to want to have a clean every week, every 2 weeks, every month. So if that happens and they get on the calendar on a recurring basis, let's just say so-and-so does the clean, she does a great job, Parker now has the opportunity to be like, hey, so-and-so wants to have the clean every 2 weeks. Is that fine with you? Can I put that on your calendar? So now she knows, or he knows, that every 2 weeks at this time, she's going to be doing that person's clean, or he's going to be doing that person's clean. And then that stacks. So now you're slowly building out a 40-week, 50 or 40-hour, 50-hour, sometimes 60-hour work schedule for your cleaners. And that's just one of them.
Yep.
And then as you do that, you just continue to onboard more providers. And then you're having like a crazy impact on their current situation because you're paying them $25 an hour. How are you making money paying them $25 an hour? Because that's what everyone says in these comments.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of do that. I kind of want to address like what everyone's saying in the comments about like the content that you've been posting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, first things, a couple of qualifying statements here is you are the controller of your company, right? And you have a couple things to be aware of, right? I can bill a customer at $60, $70, $75 an hour, depending on the scope of the clean, depending on the urgency of it, depending on a lot of things, right? In that case, it's very, very believable to be able to pay out at $25 an hour. You know, that's not even a large percentage of the service itself. Rather than being concerned with how much you're able to pay out, I think people should be looking at what the margins look like. Because running a business where you make $30 an hour and you pay out 25, obviously it sounds like e-com at that point, right? It sounds like Amazon FBA or drop shipping or whatever, where, you know, oh, I did $1 million in sales this year at a 3% margin. Okay. We're talking about 40, 45, even upwards of 50% margins on a monthly basis for the fulfillment of these services, okay? So for me to say I'm paying my cleaner $25, $28, $30 an hour, my customer is paying $50, $55, $60 an hour for those respective services. And that's why it's easy for me to reward a cleaner with a really good pay, and the customer gets rewarded with a really high quality customer experience, both in the customer service and the quality of the clean itself. So, you know, it really is a no-brainer on that standpoint. And then I think people don't understand how there's profit margin to be made, because they also don't understand the value that you are providing as a cleaner. A lot of people view cleaning and cleaning companies as almost like a commodity, like it's like for like. Cleaning is cleaning. Whoever gives the cheapest price is the best option. That's not the case. A lot of people will pay a premium for a premium service. And when they find a premium service, they're happy to pay it every month, every 2 weeks, every week. We have customers who we clean for every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, right? That is the most passive form of money that I can imagine.
And let's talk about real quick you generating a deal, because I saw this firsthand with you in the car. We were going to the Miami Design District, and this was this Friday or was this Saturday?
This was Friday. Yep.
So Parker gets a phone call. He picks up the phone.
Yep.
How long did you talk to that person for? 8 minutes?
Yeah, we were in an Uber at 1 p.m. on a Friday. I talked to her for probably 8.5 minutes, something like that.
And what was the scope of the work? How much did you close the deal for?
Yeah, it was a small 2-bedroom apartment. She wanted to move out clean, no extras, just the bare bones move out clean. I closed her for $200. I'll pay my cleaner probably around $100 to maybe like $105 for that service. And I made $100 on an 8-minute phone call while I was on vacation in an Uber. So, you know, that was a very common occurrence. You know, I would say truly I'm probably doing that 3 to 5 times a day at this point.
And what's 100 times 6?
600.
So in 10, let's just say 10 minutes.
Yeah.
$600 an hour. If you got that every single hour, once an hour you did that.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, you're even ignoring the lifetime value of that customer, right? Because yes, that one service is great. That $100 profit that I made in 10 minutes is fantastic. But now imagine that this customer calls back for another one-time clean in 3 months. Or better yet,
Referral.
she refers a friend. Or better yet, she starts a recurring service. Better yet, she does 2 or 3 of those things. I have had customers who I've closed for a one-time job and made $400 profit in a 15 to 20 minute phone call, and then they have started a service with me that makes me $100 or $125 every single week, and I don't even have to speak to them. It doesn't even take any time. The only time that it takes is going in and clicking charge on their credit card when the booking is completed. That's it.
Yeah. And like a lot of the insights that you have from the last 6 months was because of the mentorship program that you signed up for, obviously DSA, student testimonials. So explain to everyone that's watching this, that's on the fence, about like what your experience was like after you got onboarded, like the coaching side of things in DSA.
Yeah, no,
Because
I think that was the best part.
Yeah, so it's me and Mark. If you guys don't know who Mark is, he's my partner down here in Miami, and we were the ones that coached Parker. So after you got onboarded, you had an onboarding call, and then what did it look like after that?
Yeah. So, I was in the unlimited coaching group. I very much took advantage of the unlimited coaching. I got onboarded, and when I had problems, I called, I texted, we got it figured out, and they were available. It was streamlined. I had my weekly call with them. And then when I needed help filling in the gaps, I called, we filled in the gaps. At that point in time, there was actually one small group call a week. So I always went to the one small group call. I had my weekly one-on-one call. And then, as needed, I would reach out for additional help. At this point, the group has 8 weekly calls, plus your one-on-one call, plus help as needed. I mean, the mentorship, the one-on-one side of things was really the biggest value add, in my opinion, because the content itself, it's a you don't know what you don't know. You can only capture so many potential theoretical experiences and obstacles in pre-recorded video content. You can only do so much. But with a one-on-one mentor, with a coach, with someone who's actually invested in your success, I truly felt like if there was anything that wasn't in the video modules, I was getting an answer same day. If I needed something, I could reach out and I would hear back within the same day, most of the time, like within a couple hours. I would have answers to direct questions, not just like, well, what do you think I should do in this situation? And them saying, well, use your best judgment. No, it was like, this is what you should do. This is why. This is how we'll handle this situation. If you need any further help, call me back after. Like, it was very hands-on, very direct, and very tailored to my exact experience, problems, obstacles.
And the accountability aspect too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a very self-motivated person, but
not everyone is.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
everyone is.
Yeah, not a lot of people have that drive within them, and to have someone checking in and being like, hey, have you gotten this done yet? Are you doing what you need to do? Are we growing month over month? Are we checking the boxes? That is, incredibly valuable for a lot of people who aren't in a situation where they can push themselves or they have someone else pushing them.
Yeah, so a lot of people that might be watching this have seen your content, whether it was TikTok and Instagram because you started making that. So kind of explain to everyone now, because the majority of the people that aren't inside DSA know that you're a student, but what is your current role with DSA? Because that's changed since he's been on board in November.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my role is really, I like to say, I'm the student success manager. I'm responsible for making sure that people win when they get inside the group. Obviously, John and Mark are very hands-on still, and we're definitely a three-headed dragon, if you want to call it that. It's a team effort, but obviously there's a lot of moving pieces now within Dropservice Academy. So John and Mark very intelligently realized that the academy was almost outgrowing the two of them because there was so much demand and so many students wanting to join. And we kind of reached out to each other because I had so much interest in the industry and the business model and found so much love and was spending all my time doing it. And they were like, hey, we really need someone else to just help us monitor everything, make sure no one's slipping through the cracks, everyone is winning. And that was why they brought me on. And so I work as a one-on-one coach. I create a lot of content specialized for DSA students, actual content within the paid groups. I host five of the 8 live weekly calls. 5 or 6 even sometimes, depending on the week. And I am just always a resource, always at everyone's disposal for any questions, any type of obstacles you might face. And really, I just take a lot of pride in not just being successful with the model myself, but also helping others achieve that same success because I know how replicable it is. Like, I'm not reinventing the wheel, and neither are the dozen students that made 5 figures last month. Neither are the 100 students that have taken the jump over the course of the last 6 months, with the vast majority of them coming really in the last 3 or so months. People are seeing the value, they're making the jump, and they're winning. They're making 10K, 15K, 20K plus per month. And I get to be, thankfully, a testament not only to the group from the student side, but now get to coach and help the next group of students really crush it in the same way that I did.
Yeah, so if you ever decide to join DSA, the first thing that we do is we'll onboard you into the school group that you get access to, and then you also get put into a Slack chat, a VIP chat with myself, Mark, and now Parker. So besides having the community with access to all the modules, which we'll get into in a second, because Parker was saying when he joined versus right now, 3x, 4x the amount of videos that we have in there now, and resources, but we'll get into that. But you also get into a VIP chat with the 3 of us. So it's like, yes, you can make posts in the community on school, but if you ever have any urgent questions, you have access to the 3 of us where you can shoot in your chat, you can ping us, and then we'll all have the opportunity to go in there, respond with the message, send an audio message, send a Loom video, whatever that looks like. But the modules, the added content.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
No, I mean, I've spent months now, truly multiple months, just creating and refining a ton of content for the group. When I joined, we essentially just had the A to Z modules. It was about
25, 30 videos.
Let's call it probably even more like 35 videos. And that was actually sufficient for me to get to 35K in 6 months. But beyond that, now I would say we're probably closer to 100 video modules with additional tutorials and templates and sales calls and recorded group sessions. I mean, there is absolutely no shortage of both static information that is within the group for you to look at whenever you want to, and now going from 1 live call to 8 live calls a week, covering outbound sales, covering inbound sales, marketing, lead generation, general roundtable. I mean, I host office hours during the day where people can come in and get any information that they need about any different topic that they may be having questions about. The growth within that group, not to mention the robustness of the community. Now with us being over 100 students and truly a lot of people who are incredibly active, and they come to a lot of calls, and they're always sharing their advice and trying new things, and we're just this big collective intelligence and brain that we have spent 6 months now nurturing and growing to the point where it's at. And no surprise, those students are also the students who are winning in the way that I am, because they put into the business model what they want to get out, and the community and the academy provides the perfect environment for them to reap those benefits.
Plus the dynamic content and the extended modules. So if anyone has any question to us, like they'll ask it, if for whatever reason, and I feel like at this point we have an answer to every single question because of the amount of people that have come into the academy that had asked questions where we've created content on the spot. But the dynamic content that we create, if you have a question about something and for whatever reason it's not in any module, we will make the video, we'll send it to you, and then we'll either recreate that video or just use that loom that we sent you and add it into the academy.
Yep.
So it's like over time, constantly adding new content.
Yep.
Like Parker, for example, we were getting a lot of questions about the CRM that we use. So what he did was he had a 15 to 20 minute video where he was on Loom going through a lot of the tutorials aspects of the CRM. But then also we have an hour-long video where he answered any possible question that could ever be brought up about the CRM. Hour-long, live call, and now that's in the module set as well. So that's just like another thing that we're doing. Anything that you possibly could ever think of is added into that module over time.
Yeah, no, there's no shortage of content, and it is, like you said, it's a dynamic education. You know, it is not, and I don't want to point fingers or name names, but you know, a lot of people within the educational space, they create their course, they create their academy, they say this is good, and they leave it, and they sell it as it is for however long that it lasts.
And we could talk about with leads, paper leads.
Yeah,
we have a new method.
Yep.
That we're going to be making content for soon. Thumbtack.
Absolutely, yeah. We've with the help of a couple of students who have been really savvy, you know, we've developed a whole new strategy around a paper lead platform where, you know, we are getting. Last week I got 8 leads for a total ad spend of $11. Right. 8 leads. Of those 8 leads, I closed about $600 in business. And I paid $11 for those leads. I mean, you can't, that is not something 99.9% of people are going to figure out on their own, because no one in our group even figured it out on their own. It was, again, a collective intelligence of people coming together, 5 people trying to achieve the same goal on a certain platform. I mean, you just can't beat it.
And that's the beauty of the weekly calls.
Yep.
We have the 8 events every single week they can have an opportunity to go to. And outside of just like the presence of those calls and like the content that we have inside the academy, if you're a student, you have now an opportunity 8 times a week to get on a call, be in a room with 10, 15, 20 people, and just network.
Yeah, and these are people all with the same attitude as you, with the same goals as you, and either slightly in front of you or slightly behind you. You get to give a hand to the people that are right behind you as they try to traverse things and figure them out. You get to be a guiding light for them and help them. And then you get to get a hand down for you from the people that are slightly in front of you. I mean, it is a very, you know, just beautiful relationship that we've created within the academy of people with just the same goals that are very like-minded, all working together to grow, scale, automate, create these businesses. And the system is replicable. There's a robust education, a robust community. I mean, it's a can't-lose atmosphere in my opinion.
And then on top of it, you just went through the 3 pillars. Each pillar we have that we're starting to build out in-house teams that gives them access to use what we've used to be able to implement it with your business, so you don't have to be stressed or worried about maybe the virtual assistants. So Parker just onboarded his first VA. We have an in-house team for that now. So the same VAs that Parker is going to be using for his business, you'll have an opportunity to get connected to that same person where you'll go through the same exact process as Parker and then have an opportunity to onboard one of those virtual assistants into your business once you get to the point where you can eventually scale and eventually start automating, because obviously you guys want to be making money before you do that, unless you're just sitting on an endless amount of cash and you just want this business to be cash flowing you money from the beginning. But most of you, that's not the case. You want to be able to get to 10K a month or maybe 15K a month, where now you have cash flow coming in that you can take some of those margins and then put it into something of a virtual assistant that can start delegating some of the tasks that you're doing on an every single day basis to them instead, to buy your time back.
Absolutely.
And then in-house website development.
Yep.
Parker's fiance, since he's joined DSA and became a success manager, now his fiance is doing website development for everyone. So it's like as soon as you get onboarded into the academy, he's going to be reaching out to you. And when you were shopping around for websites, $750 all the way up to $2,500 for a website,
Yep.
Emily's doing it for $600.
Yep. For students, we do it for 600. For non-students, we're in like the 900 to 1,000 range. It's really, you're not only getting the content that comes with it, but you're getting the connections that come with it as well. You're getting plugged into tech tools like SMS Savant. You're getting plugged into virtual assistant group agency that we are hand selecting these people. They're educated. They're ready to be plugged into the business, and you don't have to, again, try to figure that out on your own. Most people have no experience with that, sourcing it, qualifying it. Again, you don't have to worry about any of that. You can really just kind of leave that with us. And I think that there's not only is this one place you can come and it's a one-stop shop, you can get everything that you need, but you can get everything at a high quality and a very, very reasonable cost, which is super hard to find. Like you're not paying a premium for this concierge service, for this really simplified, easy, streamlined process. You're actually getting a discount and you're getting the streamlined service and process. So yeah, I mean, John, we've covered a ton of great stuff today. I think the only thing that I am really also itching to talk about that we haven't talked about yet, and it's something that it was so enticing to me about this business model. One of the main reasons why it piqued my interest so much is the idea of building enterprise value.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you and Mark mentioned this to me right in the beginning when I was going to join. Kind of having a build to sell idea for a home service business that you guys were working on. And, that to me, immediately caught my attention as a young person looking to, of course, have the flexibility and the mobility within their finances. Could you talk a little bit more about why this business is able to build enterprise value unlike other businesses?
So like if you guys have a personal brand, let's just say you have like a stock Discord community and you're the face of the Discord community, you can't sell that to someone else if you wanted to exit it down the road because you're the brand. Your presence is the reason why it's making money. If you're copywriting, that's a freelancing opportunity. It's not like you have an LLC and you have customers that are coming in and you can be able to just give that book of clients to someone else. It's like you're the person that's doing the copywriting for the client. So you can't sell your book of copywriting clients to a PE firm. But this business, they're your customers, it's your service, it's your referral agency. So as you are stacking recurring revenue, because you have a monthly recurring revenue aspect to it, and it's not just like sales, if you're in high ticket sales, maybe you get 30, 40 at-bats a month where you can close a client for an offer or for a technology, whatever it is that you're selling. You reset every single month. You're back at zero. But with the remote cleaning business, you're building relationships. So you're building a book of clients that are going to be getting a service from you every single month, and you're not the one that's doing the clean. It's not your face that's attached to it. You have your independent contractors that are doing it. So as you are scaling your remote cleaning business, you're building enterprise. And do you want to explain what enterprise is? It's just...
Yeah. Building enterprise value essentially means that the time that you're putting into this business doesn't only pay itself back in cash flow, it pays itself back in a real saleable value. This is an asset in itself that can be sold as a package, allowing you to fully exit the business and take a lump sum for it. Okay? So for example, my business at its current revenue, assuming a 2x valuation, which is pretty standard in this industry, my business could be sold for around $400,000 right now.
At this point?
At this point, right now, six months in. Okay, that means that if I were to find the right buyer, now obviously you have to find the right buyer. I'm not saying that that's like a cakewalk.
You don't just like go on your computer and hit a button and then you like get
and then it's sold. No.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to find the right buyer, which is not impossible by any means. I could, and I actually am looking at this as a build to sell, and will be looking to in the next probably 3 months exit this business for upwards of $500,000, that means I spent 9 months building the business, and along the way, probably made in profit, will probably end up making something in the ballpark of $100,000 in profit. Profit in 9 months, and then exiting the business anywhere in the ballpark of $500,000. This means round tripping a business from non-existent to out of your hands for, call it $600,000 in 9 months.
And then if you really wanted to, you can just run it back.
You could just go to a new city. You don't even have to go to the new city. Pick a new city and run it back.
And then obviously, like, if you have a buyer come in, maybe you sign some sort of a contract where there's a non-compete, but there's new rules now that...
There are new rules preventing non-competes. Now, you probably couldn't do it in your same town, but go to a different city or a different state, you run the model right back, you already have the skill set, you've already paid for the mentorship group, you don't lose access to it, you are ready to rinse and repeat the model, or you're at a different point in your life than I am, and you're like, why the hell would I sell a business that's making me $20K a month in profit? Keep it.
Or you could start, like, you could fully automate that business. You can have a virtual assistant team that's working 40, 50 hours a week, and then you can start a second one, do the same thing in a year. Like, if you guys are doing this for 10, 20, 30 years, you can build a portfolio of maybe 5 or 10 cleaning businesses, and then you can sell that to a buyer or a PE, like a PE firm, private equity firm, and now your EBITDA, which is like the valuation that he was talking about earlier, instead of it being a 2x, could be a 5x or it could be a 10x, because now you have a portfolio of multiple businesses.
Yeah, no, and there's no wrong way to do it, because the model itself is what creates the enterprise value. It is not you, and that is the best part about it. You're not self-employed. You're not a freelancer. You're not a contractor charading as a business owner. You own a real business that is generating real numbers, revenue, profit, that has a real saleable value. And there is a market for these home service businesses, because people that have a lot of money don't want to build them themselves. They just want to buy them and collect the cash flow on it.
Or just write off taxes too.
Yep. Or just add it to a portfolio and write off the expense of purchasing it. So, yeah. Now, John, I think we covered a lot of stuff. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to end it on this. So, anyone that's on the fence of starting, from your last 6 months, 6.5 months maybe at this point now, from your experience, what would you say to them if you were in their shoes, if you were them 6 months ago, with the information that you know now?
Yeah. I would say you have to think about 3 things, okay? The first thing is, do you have the time to be starting a business? It doesn't have to be 40 hours a week. It doesn't have to be 50 hours a week. No, but don't expect to start any business without putting time into it. So if you're not willing to put time into it, don't start it. Save your time, save your money, save your energy, okay? If you are in a situation where you are financially set, you're making all the money that you want to be making, you love your job, everything is going how you want it to go, probably, again, not the right time for you to start this business, because you're not in a situation where you have a reason to work hard, or you have a reason to try to make something happen. Okay, now most people are not going to fall into these boxes. Most people don't have a job that they love and that pays them super well, and you know, if you were in that group, you probably wouldn't even be watching this video at all. And then most people understand, are smart enough to know that if they want to build a business, they're going to have to put some time into it, whether that's time after work or before work, or you know, on the weekends, or whatever that looks like. So if those 2 things aren't your situation, then the third thing that you have to decide is, do you want to go further and faster, or do you want to go at your own pace, go slow, figure it out, you know, kind of trip, stumble when the obstacles happen, because they inevitably will, and figure it out like that. And for me, it was a no-brainer. And the third thing you have to ask yourself is if you want to go faster and further, but with more upfront investment, or if you want to figure it out on your own and, inevitably deal with some trials, tribulations, some things that are going to come up, but, you have less upfront investment. I think the model itself is perfect. The reality is, you have to make the decision of whether this is something that you really want to pour into or whether it's something that you're just going to try to figure out as you go. So obviously I went the first route. I would recommend it to anyone because, spending a little bit extra on the front end has allowed me to make so much more, even on a 6-month time horizon. I can't imagine what a 12-month plus time horizon will look like.
That's awesome. Yeah, let's finish with that. So like next 5-6 months, I know that you said that you wanted to exit the business too, possibly, like you were talking about earlier in this episode. Where do you want to be by the summer? And then like when were you thinking about exiting the company?
Yeah, so for April, we did around 35K. For May, I'm looking for 40. June, 50. July, 60. I think that's kind of the goal trajectory that I have, and I really truly believe in those numbers. That's not just me pulling something out of my ass here. And I think,
and if you guys, I don't want to cut you off, but like if you guys don't believe him, follow him on TikTok, follow him on Instagram, because Twitter, you're updating everyone on everything that you're doing.
Yep.
Every single day.
Every day, every week, every month, I post the full breakdowns. I post everything. There's no smoke and mirrors here. And like you had mentioned, I'm getting married in the middle of July. I have my reception in August. I'm looking to exit the business more than likely in August. Originally, my price target was $500K for it. I don't think that's enough. I think I want more like 600.
And you need to get to 60K a month.
Yeah, if I got to 60K
like 25, 30K profit.
Yeah, 25 profit. That'd be worth around 600K. And I think that's my price target for an exit. And if no one's ready to buy it at that price, I could cash flow 25K a month on it. Maybe even bring in some real full-time, US-based staff and still cash flow 15 to 20 while really not having to touch much at all. So definitely, that's the long-term vision for me. I think there's nothing but opportunity here. And the growth over the next 3 months will be on par with what it has been, and the exit will be beautiful, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you're interested in maybe getting started, go to Parker's Instagram, go to my Instagram, subscribe to the channel because we're going to be posting more of these. We already have a decent amount of the students, I think 3 or 4 at this point, but we got a video with Cody, we got a video with Frank, you're going to be getting a video with Chris. So we're just going to keep pushing content about the students that are in DSA so you guys can see their experience, what they've gone through over the last few months since they got started, so you can have a better understanding of what it is like to be in DSA. But yeah, that's about everything. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like, it goes a long way for the algorithm. We're just getting started on YouTube. You're going to be seeing a lot more content on this channel, that is the John Malillo channel, and then Parker also has a YouTube as well.
And you might be watching this on my channel as well. Who knows? Probably be posting it on both channels.
Yeah, probably
There'll be a lot of content coming from both of us. So, yeah, stay tuned, guys. Thank you.